In 1972, Title IX resolved the conflict of women not receiving the correct funding for competitive sports in school buildings, creating an astonishing change in public institutional sports. Without Title IX, many women would be compromised in their decisions for athletics. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, women used to form clubs that revolved around sports. These clubs would include tennis, croquet, bowling, and archery, even though the only appropriate sport for women in that time was golf. The feminist movement, going very far in the late 19th and early 20th century, affected women's sports greatly, but it was paused by the Great Depression. And then during the 1960s and 70s, the women's civil rights movement started. However, in the 1970s, women's sports were not competitive, with most of it being recreational. People thought if women participated in sports at that time, it could end up being very hazardous. In those times, the only competition that women could look forward to were days called play days. These were special days when they would compete in mild sport activity against other students from their schools. They would not be able to travel to other schools because, most of the time, there would be no transportation available to them. There were no rules available to protect women's sports, but Title IX would change that.
And it was a small school. The only time we had boys and girls sports was if parents volunteered. So parents always volunteered to do boys, like they had baseball, soccer, basketball, and a little pee-wee football, But then there was nothing really for the girls.
Title IX is a law signed into legislation by President Richard Nixon on June 23, 1972. The exact words of this law entail, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance." There were 3 people who also were responsible for Title IX, and they each had their own key reasons. The first of them being Patsy Mink, who was an American lawyer and a politician from the state of Hawaii. She had first-hand experience with gender discrimination, and for most of her career as a legislator, she focused on gender equality. Along with her, Burke Bai, a former U.S. Senator. He wanted to prohibit all types of gender discrimination. He helped write Title IX and parts of the Equal Rights Amendment. Finally, Edith Green, an American politician and an educator from the state of Oregon, wanted to change the types of laws keeping women in school, which were not present in 1960. Patsy Mink, Edith Green, and Burke Bai all were very important and key reasons Title IX was made. Title IX was created with the objective of not using any federal assistance in gender discrimination in public buildings. This means that Title IX does not affect girls who go to private institutions. Some other perks of having Title IX would be endless. The equipment and supplies must be of the same quality, sustainability, quantity, maintenance, and replacement throughout all sports. The practices and competitive events must be of the same amount of time and amount as the men's. The traveling systems must be the same. The opportunities overall must be the same. They must have the same amount of locker room space. The facilities must be close to equivalent. The new opportunities are endless. To see if a school was in compliance with these new rules, they must look at the 3 key points of having Title IX. Having athletic financial assistance, accommodation of athletic interests and abilities, and having other program areas are all ways to tell if they are following this new law. As expected, the public immediately responded to the title. Both the coaches and the athletes of male sports were very frustrated with many schools' attempts to follow the law. Many colleges, including California State University, removed male teams in order to not be penalized. There were numerous trials from angry coaches trying to break Title IX. One of these would include the National Wrestling Coaches Association. They filed against Title IX in 2003, however, they lost the trial.
About it, because now instead of sorting the money by the most popular male team, so let's say there's $1 million to spend and it really was just on like the 4 boys sports that they wanted to have, or the 6 male boys sports, well, now they got to share it with everybody, so that's spreading them thin right there. So what happens on a budget is you can't pay for everything, so what's got to go?
Title IX also caused an uproar of new laws, all trying to make it larger. 3 laws passed in 1974, 1975, and 1977 were all passed to make Title IX affect sports more greatly. These all eventually failed because they did not work as promised. A failed amendment, the Tower Amendment, inspired Title IX's final regulations, the Tivis Amendment, in 1975. The president at the time, Gerald Ford, signed this into law. All public institutions had 3 years before action could be taken for the new regulations. On June 4th, it was approved by Congress. The well-known Department of Education was created in 1980, Title IX being added to it. And in 1982, it became a part of the NCAA. This is the National Colleges Athletics Association. Title IX is also associated with other laws, such as Title IV, and they are alike but have many key points differed. The effects of Title IX now is tremendous. In 1972, only 295,000 girls played sports, while 3.67 million men did. In 2010, 3.2 million girls played sports. Compared to past records, the change is astonishing. They can now play in 3 levels: local, state, and even national. The change also affects scholarships, with almost none in 1972, compared to 200,000 in 2017. Since 1972, 10 times the amount of women participate in college sports, the percentage being 15% in 1972, 40% now. In the first part of 2017, 21 women were hired athletic director and commissioner roles across all NCAA divisions. Also from them, they sponsor over 40 women's sports championships. These statistics have also helped us in the Olympics. During the 2012 Olympics, American female athletes took home 45 medals, 29 of them being gold. Even though Title IX affects about 16,500 schools for the better, more money goes to men's sports. The average amount of money paid towards male teams is $8.6 million, compared to the $4.5 million for girls.
Of my career, more than it affected the kids who grew up in Iowa, because in Iowa, my mother, who's 78 years old, played basketball as an organized sport. And in Illinois, just across the river, those people have only had organized sports from about 1972.
Throughout history, women have not had the correct funding, time, and resources to successfully participate in public institutional sports. Title IX decided to put a stop to the discrimination. Now that women have the motivation to compete in athletics, there is a noticeably higher amount of women wanting to achieve more and overcome their own conflicts. In 1972, Title IX resolved the conflict of women not receiving the correct funding for competitive sports in school buildings, creating an astonishing change in public institutional sports. Without Title IX, many women would be compromised in their decisions for athletics.